If you're not familiar with who I am Jeff Clark. I'm one of our senior admin residents here at UW Health. And today we're going to talk about upskilling, reskilling of the pharmacy technician workforce. The objectives that we hope to outline today are to identify challenges affecting the pharmacy workforce, summarize the upskilling and reskilling strategies of the pharmacy workforce, and describe ways UW Health has upskilled or reskilled. So, as you may all be aware of, which I'm sure you all are, labor shortages back from October 22 across not just pharmacy, but across the entire job market. There's greater than 4 million jobs that were open. Labor force participation has been around 62.3, which is actually about 1% lower than pre-pandemic levels. And most of this has been affected by lower paid industries seeing a higher rate of labor shortages. So this has all been a little bit more unique coming out of the pandemic as to why there are so many openings and why people are moving from one career to another career, which has driven a lot of the conversations and discussions around upskilling and reskilling. So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, these are some of the phrases and some of the themes that they have discovered have been probably the most impactful to the reason why we're seeing such high amounts of labor shortages and people switching different career paths. Lack of good jobs is the most identified reason. People not feeling like the jobs that they're doing are meaningful or something that they're proud of. Safety with COVID-19, we saw where a lot of people felt as if the institution they work for did not keep them safe, or that they felt that their life was more important than the environment that they were in. Salaries not keeping up with inflation. I think this has been a very big one that we've seen highlighted over the last couple of years, where the amount of inflation has this rampage and salaries have not kept up. Increase in education, more jobs require you to have more.
Great, because that's what I told
can hear some people. Erica, if you can mute yourself, thank you. Increase in education, also being one of the things that limits people from being able to go into a certain career path. Early retirement, a lot of people outside of the pandemic decided that they've had enough, that they're, okay, you know what, I've been flirting with the idea of retirement, I might as well just go ahead and decide to do that. Childcare, there's a lot of jobs that don't allow you to be able to have that flexibility of if your kids are at home because of the COVID-19 emergency and some of the crises that we've seen, that they weren't able, they didn't have anyone to watch their kids, and their job didn't allow them, they didn't have the flexibility. And then personal business growth, that's been a really huge one where people have just decided to take ownership of their own business growth and to expand into that realm. So focusing more on the pharmacy technician crisis that we have seen, there was a 2022 ASHP technician survey, and it showed that among the institutions, there was greater than 21% of technician turnover rate, which is alarmingly high. 10% of administrators in that report reported losses greater than 40%. So imagine almost 50% or more of your staff completely turned over. 80% of those institutions use a pharmacist in a technician role, and 25% of technicians desire a career ladder with pathways for promotion. And that kind of goes back to just not feeling like you have a good job available for you. So some of the challenges we've seen in health systems, these aren't new, but they are ones that definitely became more amplified with the pandemic. Engagement being a big one. With the pandemic, a lot of institutions shifted to more, some of their work being working remote, some people not having that sense of actually feeling like they have that advancement within their companies, people seeing other people leave to go to other jobs that they felt maybe they should also be able to do. Recruitment has been a tough one in health systems. It leads back to a lot of the work that we do, you can't do at home. And, you know, specifically with technicians, a lot of that work requires you to be on site. So unable to find those candidates, lack of competitive pay, making that work seem attractable is quite a challenge to health systems, and one that we're still seeing today. The pandemic, I think, kind of fueled both of that, the engagement and recruitment aspect, where people didn't have the means to have the flexibility within their jobs in the health system to appropriately flex the way that they were having to be, with specifically with childcare or with safety concerns during the pandemic. So the U.S. labor statistics showed that in 2020, the median pay for pharmacy technicians was about $35K per year, or about $16.87 per hour. Mind you, this is 2020. This number has since, probably even with all of the different initiatives and alarms that have been sound, has not risen a lot since 2020 to this day. Education here is still seen with high school diploma pretty much globally, and no previous work experience is actually required. Adding on to that, there was this article, I don't know how many people actually got a chance to read this article, but it was a New York Times article which showed pharmacy work in the news. And the title was How Pharmacy Work Stopped Being So Great. This article primarily focused on the retail sector, focusing on your big chains, and how it highlighted the work environment and conditions that staff has been going through for multiple years, and how that had become more amplified over the last few years. So people who I know personally that were not in healthcare had sent me this article saying, are you going through this? Because most of them obviously don't know the difference between retail or hospital pharmacy, but there are some of those parts that are valid to both. And this is how pharmacy has been portrayed nationally in the news, as not being a great place to be. So what tactics can we actually use to recruit and retain? That's the first discussion question that I kind of want to pose to the group. And, feel free to either unmute yourself or put it in the chat. I'm just curious, what things can we do as a group collectively to figure out how we can recruit and retain more individuals? And let's focus mainly on pharmacy technicians.
All right, Jeff, we have increased pay, make it easy to take sick time and use vacation, sign-on bonus, and increase their pay.
Yeah, those are all really good ones. Are there any more in there, or I can continue?
Yeah, share the difference they make in patients' lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of those and more. So some of the tactics that are being used are highlighted here. So we have short-term and then more long-term tactics that are being used. Short-term, you see those recruiting bonuses, more focus on pay, right? Incentive pay for working overtime, extra time hours, use of agency staffing, hiring overskilled workers in positions. And, you've seen this in our own department, and you've seen this probably at other institutions as well, where they've used these tactics to try to bring in more workers, or try to get your retain workers to be able to make sure that you can fulfill all those shifts. Long-term, repeated market compensation assessments. I showed you the 2020 median pay and $16.87. Not really going to cut it in today's market. Many institutions have been able to bump that up closer to that 1920 range. And you're going to continue probably to see some more market adjustments that come with multiple institutions. Creating those new career ladders. I can't tell you how many times people and pharmacy technicians feel that they don't have anywhere to grow, that they've hit their limit by just being a more operational focused pharmacy technician. And they look, without them going back to pharmacy school, there's not really that many opportunities for them to stay a technician and continue to grow into a more higher role in that realm. And then I think that the really big one that we're going to focus on, of course, is upskilling and reskilling, and how those efforts can be used to help retain, but also grow your staff. So first, let's take a minute to identify upskilling versus reskilling, these two definitions. So upskilling is the process of learning new skills or of teaching workers new skills in a current job, whereas reskilling is preparing that worker to be able to take on a different job. I think it's important that you understand those two differences as they both have different meanings and different processes, and one can lead to more benefit or more impact on how you go about it in your institution. So this poses my next question. What are the benefits of upskilling or reskilling? What can you see as those, like maybe those really good ones that, and I heard one of them, which was engagement or feeling purpose. Well, what other ways can upskilling and reskilling help? As he prevents burnout in current position, absolutely. It allows people to feel like there's more room for them to grow. I wish I knew how to pull up the chat feature. Allie, we're getting any more fills gaps with sick calls? Yeah, absolutely, it can. We identified that there's a lot of times that the training stops and then people don't have that skill to fit into a role where maybe they haven't had training, maybe they're a delivery tech and then they've never got trained to do the sterile compounding area, and offering those capabilities for them to get that training, really important, but also important that when building that career ladders that you recognize more higher acuity work that, and it gets recognized, through some type of form of either compensation and recognition being a higher level work.
Nothing else in there, Jeff.
Okay, we're gonna flip that question too. What about challenges? What are those challenges you see with upskilling or reskilling? Extra work money to retrain employees in the areas? Absolutely. That is a big one. It definitely costs more. Oh, I saw a couple come flying through, but it couldn't catch them all.
Risk of
Allie,
making
could
the
you share
job
that?
harder. Yep, risk of making the job harder for the same pay. Finding time to train while still staffing all positions during shortages.
Absolutely, I agree. Those are all really challenges that we see as well. Some of the benefits that I identified and that ASHP has actually identified as well. Career change, right? Allowing people to feel like they can actually move into something different. Career advancement, feeling like you can move into a more higher purpose. Improvement and engagement, right? I think it kind of links to those first two, change and advancement, but making people feel that when they come to work, that they're doing meaningful work and that work also will allow them to improve in their own job, but also become more engaged and more in tune with the organization. Upscaling and rescaling can lead to more retention as you give individuals the opportunity to keep growing and ability to hire skilled workers. A lot of the work that technicians are doing, or pharmacists in this case in the pharmacy space, it's hard to find people who are actually qualified to actually do that skills, where maybe our education levels that we have right now do not reflect the skill required. In order to actually do that job requires you to have to develop a certain skill set that takes time for you to develop and learn. Challenges, I think you guys kind of really hit these. FTE and limitations, do you have that time to actually be able to train? Do you have that capability of being able to pull people offline to actually give them that training? Training for other companies is another big one. This happens quite a bit with different institutions where they go through a training program or they get trained in something else and then they move on to a different company. You can see this could definitely be, there's some areas that I can think of that we do that you could be training for another company, and that is one of the challenges that you have to consider. And then, of course, cost being one of the bigger barriers to providing upskilling and reskilling efforts. So some of the strategies here, the approach that needs to be taken with upskilling and reskilling is making sure you gather data. So getting that data through knowledge sharing with other institutions to see what are they doing, what steps are they taking, what roles are they creating, can really help to figure out what areas can we go into more upskilled and reskilled areas within pharmacy workforce. And are there things that we have pharmacists working on that really they should be giving to maybe someone in a pharmacy technician role that could handle it, that they could be taking that on that they're not currently? Are there things that we haven't identified that need to be in there? We'll hit some of these later in the presentation as well as to where we can go with upskilling and reskilling efforts. But it really needs to be that focus on performance enablement. So what is performance enablement? It is really, if you've ever heard of that, like frequent conversations, that more 360-degree feedback method. I know some of our leaders definitely use this technique when trying to perform evaluations of employees, but really allowing people to feel engaged in the process of growing within that institution. So this is giving them that real-time feedback, allowing them to be involved in the conversation, to understand where they're going, to be able to provide, like, it'd be nice if I could have this training in this specific area. Whereas performance management is more that annual review that traditionally most organizations tend to focus to, where they, you do your job for most of the year, and you get I did good at my job or I did bad at my job and I need to improve. But there wasn't any in between touch spaces to allow you to grow, to allow you to develop, to allow you to express your concerns. And both have their pros and cons. But performance enablement is one that we really should be focusing more towards allowing individuals to feel more engaged within their performance. So how do we better incorporate performance enablement? Learning must be a daily priority. You can't just come to work and you do your job and you go home. You have to make sure that learning is something that is being done daily, something that you're able to keep growing into. One of the number one reasons in exit surveys that people leave a job is because they don't have that engagement. They don't have that feeling of accomplishment or feeling of learning in their institution. They feel like they've learned what they can, and then that's it. And then they become burnt out with their role. Consistently clarify roles and expectations. I think it's so important that as you go through, that is identified, that people understand what is their role, what is their expectation, and then using data to move forward, to understand how can we use data to better serve the workforce that we have in front of us. That's maybe hopefully finding those areas that we haven't found yet, that we could use our workforce, our technician workforce, to help us become better and grow. So the PAI 2030 Practice Advancement Initiative, they really identify two main bullets here, which is leveraging and utilizing technology to optimize pharmacists' provision of care to patients by 20%. So how can you do that? You have to expand the role of pharmacy technicians by 20%. So we have to figure out where can we fit in our technicians that we haven't currently to help our pharmacists be able to provide higher level care. And this is nothing new. This is something we've been preaching for the last, I don't know how many years, but it's something that really needs to be highlighted and be very important that we address it now before it gets worse. So some of the current trends for recruitment and retention, there are your PTCB recognized education and training programs. There's on-the-job training programs that are available. There's apprenticeship trainee programs to try to help maybe recruit the next generation of pharmacy workforce, whether that be technicians, pharmacists, through like high school apprenticeships, perhaps college apprenticeships, and then also expanding roles that we have currently to be able to do higher level work or different work. I kind of gave a part of this answer away, but are there any other ways at UW that you can think of that we've upskilled or reskilled the pharmacy workforce? Yeah, I see math and I see tech, check, tech. Absolutely. Those are big ones, unique to Wisconsin to have the capability of doing tech, check, tech. Very impactful. You can ask the technicians that fill in that role. They definitely feel more engaged. They feel like they are more utilizing the skill set that they have. I didn't see anything else pop up yet, Allie, so let me know if I'm missing anything.
Nope, nothing else just yet.
All right, I'll move on. I actually have a huge list here that of things that we've done UW Health, which two of those have been named now, or I guess three, including the tech training program. So for recognized education, we have our tech training program. That can also be classified in that more on-the-job training programs as well. Leadership opportunities to get more involved. There's the Pharmacy Technician Council. There's other opportunities where we could expand that to be more of that more on-the-job training. Continuing education, highlighting that and focusing, maybe directing some of our technician workforce to focus on, hey, maybe this is a good opportunity for you to grow and learn. Certifications that are provided, professional organization involvement. The pharmacy technician professional organization involvement has grown immensely over the last few years. There's been a lot of dedicated resources to growing that field and that aspect of professional organizations, but we should highlight it more. If we take a survey poll of our technicians, we'll see how many are actually actively involved in the professional organization. I guarantee you there's a long way to grow in that area. But maybe in letting them know that there is that involvement, there is that capability and ability to actually be more involved. Workshops and courses, something that can really be highlighted to provide that more on-the-job training. We have our spa boot camps that we have available for students and for some of our technicians to go through to become able to be able to work in our sterile products area. Apprenticeship and trainee programs, we do have one that is new. We do have that apprenticeship for high school students that allows them to see that. And what you'll see is that those students, if you go and talk to them, this is work they didn't even know existed, and it's something that they are considering. Every time I work with any of them, I try to definitely promote pharmacy as a career path. And I think that is a good way that we can try to find some of our next workers for our workforce. APPEs, IPPEs, interns would probably fall into that apprenticeship trainee program as well. And then some of those expanded roles are our coordinators and supervisors, expanded services, going into that more math and outside into that PA world. Tech, check, tech, our remote dispensing services that we have, and then, of course, in committees and involvement there. What roles specifically? We've named some of these, so I won't actually really stay on this question. I'll just go to the next one because we've named quite a bit of these already. But just some of the roles so that you have for information here. These are the ones that I can think of upskilled and reskilled quite a bit already. It's our analysts, our PA, our IMAS, our tech, check tech, our remote dispensing, med rec, supervisor and coordinator roles, nuclear, PRC. So this really drives a very, very important conversation starter, which is we have followed many of the current recommendations, as you can see. Where do we have opportunity to expand? So this is where I'm hoping that we can provide some good information to maybe give to Jack and others in leadership of, hey, you know what? Have we considered growing our technician workforce in this way? So hopefully we can get some good ideas. I have a few that I'll share after this, but I'm curious to see what everyone on the call has as opportunities to expand. Anything coming through, Allie? Oh, there we go. Still think pay is a big issue for our tech interns. Absolutely. I still think that is a big problem that we have that we're going to have to still address. When you look across the Wisconsin area, you'll notice that we're not at the top, and we should probably be near that top area for salaries that we're offering. IMS back to hospitals so they can work directly with patients. Absolutely. I think when you have them working remote, you do lose some of that engagement, and being back involved in the hospital could definitely grab that and put that. Everything should be a top payer. Absolutely. I think those are two really good recommendations. Anything else you're missing in there, Allie?
Nope, not for my end that I see.
Okay. Well, those are really good ones. I have a few different ones as well. So, oops. IMS back in person. Yep. And I think was there another one that I just saw come through as well?
Carly just said I agree with Nick. Bring IMS back in person.
Okay. Future planning, some of the anticipated roles, right? Moving more into that informatics realm. Informatics has definitely continued to grow and not, digress. So I think there's so much work to be done in the informatics side. Is there opportunity to bring in more people who maybe not have that pharmacist title, but someone who can, we're loosely use the word technician here, but someone that can fill in that role to help grow that department. Support a business enterprise, having more resources dedicated to making sure that our financials are in place and that we have more of that growth of our business enterprise. Population health disparities, that's a huge area that institutions now it's been identified, we should be focusing more into. How can we incorporate more of our technician workforce into that realm to allow them to serve in a higher level role? Non-traditional, non-leadership roles. This probably would fall more into like a coordinator role. Some of the ideals or examples that are listed here are roles in which you have maybe ownership of a specific area. So, we have our new Omnicell XT cabinets that are coming online right now. And it seems like everyone has a lot of questions and there's a lot of issues that have arisen with those. What about having a coordinator that is in charge of just the automation that they're able to help make those changes to help optimize and also serve as that first person to go to for issues with that. That's their sole focus. If you think about something like that, a lot of institutions, they do have a role like that. So maybe there's opportunity to have more of those roles that are just focused on a specific department or specific area within the pharmacy workforce. Expansion of leadership roles. Is there opportunity to have more of those to allow you to have more visibility with your leaders to be able to make sure that the vision of the department is still on track and that it's being met? And then more informal training opportunities, having more touch spaces with folks to allow them to feel a little more engaged, to feel that they actually have opportunities to learn and grow. So some of the next steps that I see happening, making sure that you always align your business strategic priorities and goals with what you're doing. So if you're upskilling and reskilling, it has to make sure it aligns with what you have identified as your goal. Identifying and setting employees up for success, both in their current role and beyond. This really goes back to that performance enablement, making sure that people understand what is it that they're being asked to do, where is it that they have opportunity to grow, but then also giving them that opportunity to grow into those areas. And then, on the back end, you have to reward them for that. If they're doing higher level work, you have to reward them. Establish a supportive environment that maintains engagement and interest. That is key. That is so important. That's one that during the pandemic, we may have, trickled down on because we did not have more camaraderie and more events that brought us all together. But having that where we focus on the why of why we're here. The reason why we're all here is to provide great patient care and safety. Advocate and support with state boards to have more upskilling and reskilling efforts. While I think in Wisconsin, we do lead our leaders of the pack when it comes to our laws and how we can use our technician workforce or even our pharmacy workforce to be able to do the tech check tech. Is there more areas where we can push our state board so that our our workforce to continue to grow and be able to help support the work that we're doing. Building skill sets for techs. Now, I think we have to constantly think about that. We can't allow our career structures to grow stagnant and stale. You have to make sure that they have a path to grow forward. And I think the way you do that is by having conversations like this, or by looking at the data that's out there, asking individuals who are working as the end users, where is it that we have the most opportunity to grow and go forward? These are some of the identified next steps that I have identified. I'd be curious to know if anyone else has any that we should focus on. But that is what I have as far as my presentation today. I would definitely be open to any questions that you may have as to what we've done here, as to where we're going. I want to throw a quick plug out for look forward in PSW for a series of podcasts and also articles to be around upskilling and reskilling. And it won't just be of the pharmacy technician workforce, it'll be a pharmacist as well that's coming out through the PALT team, which is the Practice Advancement Leadership Team within PALT that's led by the HSPAL residents.